Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to tackle a huge topic, how to conquer hate. And our guide for this, well, it's a pretty unexpected one.
All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about a story that, you probably think you know pretty well, the story of Jonah. But we're going to look at it through a whole new lens, the lens of one of the most powerful and, frankly, destructive human emotions out there, pure hatred.
So our main character is Jonah. And what's interesting is how he's described. He's not some perfect saint. He's deeply human, totally flawed, and right now, at this point in his life, he is just completely consumed by something really, really dangerous. So, God gives Jonah a command. It's super direct, but for Jonah, it feels pretty much impossible. The mission? Go to the huge city of Nineveh and tell them, hey, you guys need to repent, you need to change your ways, or you're gonna be destroyed.
Okay, to really get why Jonah reacts the way he does, you have to understand who these Ninevites were. They weren't just, some random neighbors. They were the sworn enemies of Jonah's people, the Israelites. And these guys were known for being absolutely brutal. We're talking horrific stuff. Torture, killing, even burning children alive. By any standard, these were people it was really, really easy to hate.
So what does Jonah do when he's told to go save these people he despises? Does he obey? Nope. His hatred is so powerful that he does the complete opposite. He books it. He gets on a ship and sails in the other direction, literally trying to run away from God. But, as the story goes, you can't really run from a mission like this. A crazy storm rolls in, the ship is about to sink, and Jonah's like, yeah, this is my fault. So they throw him overboard. But does he drown? No way. He gets swallowed by a giant fish. And it's only there, in the belly of this fish, that he finally relents and says, okay, fine, I'll do it. So Jonah drags himself to Nineveh. He delivers the warning, and what happens next is just unbelievable. It actually works. The whole city, we're talking from the king all the way down, they repent. They totally change their ways, and God sees this and decides to spare the city. But here's the real kicker. This is the most important part of the story. You'd think Jonah would be happy, right? Relieved that he just saved a whole city? But no, he is absolutely furious. He's angry. Why? Because his hatred for these people was so deep. He actually wanted them to be destroyed. He would have rather seen every last man, woman, and, get this, even the innocent children completely wiped off the map. And this whole situation, it perfectly illustrates a danger that the Bible warns us about over and over again. Jonah's story is basically a masterclass in the danger of what it calls a hardened heart. So what is a hardened heart? Well, think of it like this. It's when a heart gets so consumed by hate that it becomes cold, like stone. It's impenetrable. It's a state where you can't be reached by logic or love or empathy, or even, as the source material says, by God's voice. And you can kind of see this as a spectrum. On one end, you've got Jonah. I mean, his hatred was intense, for sure. He wanted his enemies gone. But God was still able to get through to him. But then you look at the other end of the spectrum, at the Pharisees. Their hearts were apparently so hard, so closed off, that they couldn't recognize God even when he was standing right in front of them in the form of Jesus. Their hatred blinded them so completely that it led them to call for his crucifixion. Okay, so if having a hardened heart is the big problem, then what's the solution? Well, the source material gives us a pretty clear roadmap. It's not easy, but it's there. First things first, you've got to break the cycle of revenge. You know that feeling, that urge to say, I'm going to do to them what they did to me? That's the fuel that hardens your heart. So the first step is to just stop, to make a conscious choice not to play that game anymore. The second step is to let go of that need to be the one who gets revenge. The idea here is to trust that justice will be served by a higher power. It's not about saying what happened was okay. It's about freeing yourself from the heavy burden of carrying that need for vengeance around. And then there's the third step. And honestly, this is the toughest one. You have to actively choose love. And notice I said choose. This isn't about some warm, fuzzy feeling. It's presented as a command, an action you have to take. Loving your enemies, praying for the people who hurt you, that is presented as the ultimate antidote to the poison of hate. And look, this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. The source gives us a really powerful real-world example, the Apostle Paul. This guy started out hating Christians. I mean, he was actively arresting them, persecuting them. But then he has this incredible, life-altering experience on the road to Damascus, and he does a complete 180. He goes from being their biggest persecutor to one of their greatest champions. It's proof that a heart, no matter how hard, really can change. All right, so let's bring this all home. How does this ancient story, this ancient lesson, actually apply to us, right here, right now?
You know, this quote from Martin Luther King Jr. just hits the nail on the head. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. It perfectly sums up the core message we've been talking about. If you try to fight hate with more hate, you're not putting out a fire, you're just throwing gasoline on it. The only thing that actually works, the only thing that can drive out that darkness, is light. There's also this great piece of wisdom from Stoic philosophy that this source brings up, and it's simple. Before you point the finger and find fault in someone else, take a look in the mirror first. And this doesn't just apply to us as individuals, it applies to whole countries. Let's be real, every single nation has some pretty dark chapters in its history. Acknowledging our own flaws, that's the very first step toward having any real empathy or understanding for anyone else. And that right there brings us to the ultimate danger in all of this. It's the lesson Jonah almost learned the hard way. When you let hate take over, when you let it harden your heart, you don't end up destroying your enemy. You end up destroying yourself. You risk becoming the very thing you hate. So, we'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. Have you allowed hate to harden your heart? And what would it take to forgive? Because the path away from that hardened heart, man, it is not easy. It takes a real conscious choice. A choice to stop the cycle of revenge, to let go of the hate, and to begin the really hard but absolutely transformative work of forgiveness.